Good morning, Ann.
Hey, good morning, Patrick. How are ya?
Good. It's almost as if we've not been talking for 20 minutes before I hit record. Just
I
kidding.
know
We have
it's just
been.
as like I just saw you for the first time today.
We just logged on. We're both here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
That's right. That's right.
properly caffeinated.
Properly caffeinated.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. But I figured it would be a good way to restart the sermon talkbacks. We took a little break in the summer, as most of our programs do, just because the summer is like a lot of ups and downs with people going on
Right.
vacation, but then also we're really gearing up for fall, and trying to figure out what fall and Advent and all those things look like during a global pandemic.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
different.
if
It's just
anyone,
it's
yeah,
just a different experience. And no one has
exactly.
any experience that we can really look onto because we haven't ever lived in
Yeah,
one.
did you learn about this in seminary, and did they cover that at ILIF or?
They didn't. We covered a lot of things, funerals, weddings, but
But
that's
but
just
not how to do church during a global pandemic. I just wanted
that's
to
right.
know if I missed out on that class.
No, I did. You didn't. I don't think so.
Good, good. I'm glad that I'm not falling behind. But
Right, right.
this week, Rob, he preached a great sermon on one of the
Mhm.
parables from Matthew, and it kicks off, the Sermon on the Mount. It's part of that, and it's a really recognizable parable, and it's the one of the speck and the log,
Mm.
about judgment, and Jesus saying to the disciples, before you judge the speck of dust in someone else's eye, you have to first remove, the plank or the log or the board from your own eye. And this is a tricky passage that people kind of go in and out of and have different interpretations. But Rob's, it kind of revolves around, this is Jesus kind of getting to the disciples and telling them, so much of your life is based on judgment. You kind of judge, when someone shows up in your life, you have to kind of judge them quickly. Like, is this a dangerous person? Is this a friendly person? And it's kind of an animalistic instinct that we all have. And
Yeah.
we like to boil people down to, as Rob said, we like to make them as small as possible so they'll fit into our pocket. We like to take the one thing we know about them, like this person did this, or this is who they are, and we just freeze them in time and like to fit them into our pocket and boil them down into this small thing. But what Jesus is trying to do here, is what Rob was saying, was to tell his disciples, we need to get on board with this idea that we're going to be a part of something bigger in the world. This alive body called the church, or the body of Christ, however you want to term it. We're going to be part of this bigger thing, and that's going to require us thinking a lot broader and loving a lot broader than what it would be like to have these snap judgments about people. And I thought it was funny Rob used Facebook, because I don't think Rob even has a Facebook,
Yeah, I don't think
but
he's maybe seen a Facebook page but like 3 times or something,
yeah, exactly. But we just want to make the snap judgments of like or like, now they have, it used to just be
Yeah.
like, but now they have, love and all the different
Care, angry, sad. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
exactly. And so we just want to assign those instead of pushing ourselves into this broader realm. And so I just wanted to ask you, how are you kind of trying to teach that, or how do you see that kind of lived out in your ministry with the children and families and with the broader church? How do you see your ministry kind of fitting into that idea of being a larger body in the world and not trying to pigeonhole people into these smaller things?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the good examples that we could talk about is Vacation Bible School from the summer. It was really fun. I mean, you were part of it. All the staff helped this year put it together, but it was interesting because we didn't gather at the church. I mean, it was not a VBS that we were
Hmm.
used to, but we still did it, and we put those tools for folks to do VBS at home. We put them in kits and we delivered them to their houses, and the theme was sowing seeds of hope. And I think that's an important part of like a way to look at a lens to look at the Bible stories, is not a lens of judgment, not a lens of saying, well, you wouldn't be in this situation if not for this, but saying, what can I learn from this story? What is the lesson of love, the lesson of hope, the lesson of what I can take from this and go and do and be better in the world. And so I feel like we did that with Vacation Bible School with a few parables, and we just talked about the ways we saw hope in that and the ways that we learned hope and put it out there. And so I really kind of enjoyed that this year. And feedback that I got from a lot of parents and grandparents who participated with VBS was just that they also appreciated having those tools themselves, where they're not creating this, this content for their children where they're, just not sure where to begin. But now they have this. They have these tools where they're the ones sitting there playing the videos, turning on the dance party, giving them the snacks, and they're seeing how it works. And there just a lot of people were really appreciative of the ways that we as a church just provided that for them. And I think that's a good way to kind of look at Bible stories in general, which is also what we do when I teach the Sunday school lessons each week as well. Is just like, what does the story say, and then what can we learn from it?
Yeah, I love that. I love that, especially because, like, for once, parents aren't just dropping them off at Vacation Bible School, and then
Right.
You ask them when they get in the car, what did you learn? And they would say, oh, I learned this parable today, or I learned this.
Or I learned this song, and I'll sing it for you right now.
Let me sing it and do the choreographed dance for you. And they're like, no, but I asked you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so for them to all be learning like that together, I think it expands the imagination of the parents and the kids to see that we're all learning the same thing. And so I really love that. And one thing I love is like the ways that kids interpret things. And I think Rob kind of touched on this. This has kind of been his theme, I think, this year. A couple months back, I guess a month or two ago, he preached about reclaiming our amateur status, and then this like childlike faith. And then he said this week, I try now to just read the scripture through, not through stained glass eyes or like a stained glass window. I try to read it as something that's alive and has emotion. And, I try to laugh when I think a character would laugh. Like he's like, I imagine Jonah washing up on the shore, covered in the guts of a fish, and just being like, how did I get here? Or Jesus in this last parable that we've been discussing, laughing at like and smiling when he's saying this, because it's almost like a humorous thing, this idea that someone would have like a big 2x4 in their eye is just like a silly turn of phrase. And so I just wanted to know, how are you kind of keeping that childlike imagination alive with your reading of scripture and your teaching and all that?
It's kind of funny that you say that. So at the beginning of the pandemic in March, Aaron Heiken and I got together virtually, I guess, and we talked about ways that we could still get Sunday school out to the kids. And so we recorded videos of us teaching different activities and lessons and sent it out. And then we both kind of just started to get bored with the lessons because we didn't have the kids there wondering about it. Like that's the best part of the lesson is you teach it and they say, well, I wonder what the sheep's name was. Do you think it was Gerald? And I was like, probably. And like, that's the best part of the lesson because now I know that sheep's name was Gerald and they're going to know it too. And they're going to remember that Jesus saved Gerald. And so I just missed that part of it. And we were like, what can we do to incorporate that silliness that the children bring and then give that to them? And so there was a lesson I did actually last week. I don't know if you happened to see it or not, but it's on the
I saw it.
it's on the YouTube page, and it was Sunday school from last week. And I got a lot of messages from parents just telling me that they laughed through the whole thing, which, I mean, that's fine with, because that was kind of the goal. But what I did was I reimagined the 10 commandments and then the Jesus coming back to do the new commandments. And so there's a story from Godly Play that we teach that's the best ways to live. And it's Moses on the mountain and the golden calf, and then he smashes the tablets and he goes back up to the mountain and he has to get the tablets again. And so the tablets are the 10 commandments that we know and we learn about, of course. And so they can kind of be dry a little bit. And so I decided to reimagine. Yeah, right. So I decided to reimagine the conversation that like God and Jesus had after God came back from the mountain with Moses, and he was talking with Jesus, and Jesus was saying, well, how did it go? Did you give them the tablets? And God's telling him, he said, well, I told them not to do this, this, and this, and this. And Jesus says, well, did you remind them to, to love one another and to be kind and to do this as a way to maybe not cast judgment? And I kind of did it in a silly way where God was shocked, and God just kind of looks around and thinks, oh, I mean, no, I didn't think about that. Should have said that. I think they'll get it though. And it's this really silly like conversation. And I do it in a silly way because I use a voice changer for God. And I also took my hair and I like pinned it up to make
And
myself
made a
like
little beard.
add a beard for Jesus. But it's so silly, but it was really fun. And you know what? If humor is what you got out of the story, like that's not a bad thing. And so I've decided to start trying to do that every other week. So like telling the story with I've been going to different families' houses and sitting outside with them and bringing godly play. And they've been helping me tell the story and using the materials, and they're acting it out with the godly play wooden figures. And then the next week, I will do a reenactment of the story in a silly way. So stay tuned. This next Sunday, so this Sunday we're going to learn about Esther, but the next week I'm going to do a silly like reinterpretation of it. And I'm kind of excited about it just because I think that is a fun way to learn about the Bible stories, is playing
Yeah,
dress up or just reimagining the stories in your own way. Because if you do it in a way that makes it fun and makes it silly, you're going to remember it more because of how memorable and how like you hold on to memories of happiness. Do you know what I mean?
exactly. And I think that and not to like fully shift gears, but that happiness and that aliveness of a child, and the ways that we imagine are so important.
Mm,
And it's important to remember that everyone has those feelings, and sometimes
right.
we can dehumanize people and just imagine them in those little small segments that we see them. Like someone might be having a bad day, and we just
Mm,
assume, oh, they're an angry person, or we don't know, what's going on in their lives. And Rob kind of talked about that at the end of his sermon, that we just don't know the burdens that people around us carry, and we want these snap judgments, like, oh, was the service good, was the service bad, where it never asks, like, did you ask your server how their day was before you make this judgment, and all of these other things.
yeah.
And it he kind of ends with this idea that the reason Jesus was giving this parable wasn't for people to never judge, or to never think critically about something. It was more to say everyone is going through something, and if you're in this judgmental state, you're keeping people at an arm's length. You're dehumanizing. You're marginalizing these people. You're not seeing their humanity. You're not seeing their wholeness. You're just seeing them for that snapshot in time, and you're pushing
Right.
them out. And so, I just wanted to know, we talked and you talked so beautifully about the ways that our kids are interacting and their families, and how much joy church brings them. But if we're holding people at an arm's length because of our judgments, what is that really doing to us as a church, and how is that shaping our world, in your opinion?
Yeah, right. I hate to say this, but honestly, like there's a reason the church has a bad reputation in the world. There's a reason
Hmm.
that people are spiritual but not religious. Like that is an option at seminary and other places,
Hmm.
like when your religion is asked of you. Like it's a very popular one because people are really struggling with the church institution because of the judgments that the church and the people within like the church have made. And that's not to speak for each individual church, but unfortunately like there's a large majority out there who kind of have started that. And I think that at Central we're really trying to live into Rob's sermon, I think, and to just say um, we love you and we don't judge you, because I think that's, as Christians, we remember that part. We remember to love. Like we got that one
Yeah.
down. Like we collect and we do things and we love people. And then sometimes we forget to not also judge. And
Yeah.
so I think that there is a lot to say about this sermon in general, but also it says, judge lest ye be judged. And so I think it's important for us to remember that, if we love another person, we are, we're loving on
Hmm.
Jesus. If we are kind and considerate, we're doing that to Jesus. But also, if we are judging and hateful and mean
Yeah.
to another person, we're also mean and judgeful and hateful to Jesus. And
Yeah.
so like, I think that's important to remember, that that is what Jesus is saying. Like, however you judge another person will then be judged to you later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I
I
think that's
think
well said.
that, yeah, well, thanks. I think it's important to just, that Rob mentioned that, there's two parts to it. There's two parts. There's loving people and then loving them without exception.
Yeah.
Not saying I love you, but like, no, but mark it out.
No buts, exactly. Well, I want to end with this because Rob used a golf analogy, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it.
Of course.
But he describes Arnold Palmer at the Masters, and he says, they're gonna. His friend is worried about Arnold's next shot, and the guy next to him says, "Oh, you've never been here. He's gonna hit this ball across towards the crowd, and someone who loves Arnold Palmer more than me is gonna stand there, and let the ball hit them so that it doesn't go out of bounds." And Rob kind of said, our task is to see that these people are surrounded with encouragement, that it's not to judge them and to make them do something or bend them to our will, but our task is to encourage them and remind them of their possibilities, to make sure that they are found and met at a place of refuge, and not with judgment but with love, like you said. And so we're to stand in and to just kind of be the bumpers that move us all in the same direction and broaden our vision. So and I'm
Definitely.
just thankful for the ministry that you're doing. I'm thankful for your friendship. But do you have anything you want to tell people before we sign off?
Yeah, I do. Those of you may be wondering why Patrick has a bandage on his finger. He's fine, but he cut his finger on glass.
On glass.
You've
And
just
it
been
was when
waving
we
your
were.
hands around, and I was like, you're gonna probably get a lot of emails about what happened to your finger.
That's true.
Okay.
I'm fine. We were playing trivia, Ann and I and some friends,
Yeah.
and I cut it, and then I had to leave trivia quickly, and then she was like, "Are you still there?" And I was like, I'm dealing with a cut finger.
Yeah.
Later."
So yeah.
But yes, I'm fine. We don't have to amputate. If we do, I'll show you guys that video. I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, no. That's funny.
But otherwise, that's all I have.
Yeah. Thanks,
Well,
Patrick. I
wonderful.
appreciate it.
Of course. And I'll see everybody next week. I'm glad to
Yeah.
be starting this back up again.
Yeah.
Bye. See you Sunday, Ann.
Yeah. See ya.